Hello and welcome to the in-news series of Drishti IAS. My name is Pooja Divedi. Today we are going to discuss how overshooting subsidies for food, fertilizer and crude oil are putting a strain on the union fiscal budget. See, subsidies are important. We need to provide subsidy to a targeted group of people so that they can sustain their livelihood. But what if it is going on and on and on because of the Covid-19 pandemic issues and thereafter, of course, because of the Russian invasion of Ukraine? This is going to be a little data-based segment, but trust me, everything is not important. Do not be anxious about, oh my God, this data is important, this amount of rupees is important, this and that. No, just understand the analysis of it and a little bit about the concept. So first of all, let us talk about the news. On December 9, the government has sought the Parliament's approval for fresh expenditure. That means new expenditure is there of rupees this much crore towards major subsidies for food, fertilizer and crude oil. See, earlier the government had a budget, like we all have our budget, but we overshoot it sometimes. That's called fiscal imprudence. So before that, government already had the budget of this much for 2022-23. But the government is saying that we cannot afford to provide subsidies from this stipulated amount. We want more money. So the Parliament will approve it. Let's see if it does or not. Let's talk about a brief background about this subsidy thing. So the earlier subsidy, was already stipulated, but a fresh subsidy has been asked for rupees this much crore on fertilizer, then this much crore for food and rupees this much crore on petroleum. So you can see fertilizer, food and petroleum. These three are the basic three things that any economy needs to survive on. So the government is saying that we cannot, afford to give subsidies from that amount. Now we want fresh amount. The fresh amount has been broken down for you to understand. The amount is not important. Please do not be worried about that. The total subsidy bill will now come to rupees this crore for food, for fertilizer, for petrol, this much. And the rupees 532,446.79 crores spending on subsidy in 2022-23, it would be the second highest after this much crore of 2020 and 21. Why it would be higher? There was just one issue earlier if we compare this year to the last year. Only Covid-19 pandemic related issue. Now it has been added on because of the Russian invasion on Ukraine, and this is putting the pressure on the government. What is subsidy? Subsidy in very simple terms I can tell you here. Just read it out and then I will explain it. It is the difference between the market price of the commodity. The market price could be rupees 80, supposedly, for those products such as wheat and rice which are procured by the government, and the price at which they are being sold to the beneficiary in the form of subsidized food grains. I am a person who needs subsidies. I cannot afford to purchase wheat and rice at 80 rupees per kilo. Suppose it's wheat. The government saying, okay, I will intervene here. Dear farmer, I won't purchase it at that price at what I will sell to this poor person who wants to buy it, because you will be at a loss. So dear farmer, I will purchase 1 kg of wheat at rupees 80 from you. But I will sell this 1 kg of wheat at rupees 60 to this poor person. So there is a difference now of rupees 20. Rupees 20 is the subsidy. That means government is providing this rupees 20 to the farmer so that this poor person can have a full amount of food for his or her or the family's belly at rupees 60. So this difference is known as subsidy. The subsidy is generally provided by the government as a welfare measure, and this is provided by the budget. Budget comes from tax. Tax is paid by us. So it's all a vicious cycle. Moving ahead, now let's talk about the delivery mechanism. How does it happen? See, this is a delivery mechanism. Why do we provide subsidies? Just to ensure that welfareism is existing for everyone, specifically to support low-income household in a targeted manner. It's not in a haphazard manner. We will target them with the help of certain schemes. And this is provided for food with the help of PDS system, public distribution system, through which the government provides the food grains at a lower cost. All right. And other thing is direct benefit transfer, in which the government can provide money to the beneficiaries account if they want to, not take advantage of one scheme, they can take advantage of DBT so that they can get their own food. Then incentives to support selective categories of investors or producers is also coming under the delivery mechanism for subsidies. PLI, the production linked incentive scheme, what is this? This is basically an incentive based scheme for incremental sales of the manufactured goods in India. That means domestically, if I am producing something and the government is saying, okay, you are going good, you should produce this more and I will give you an incremental incentive on the sale that you are doing for these manufactured products. So this is also done through subsidies. The incentive, the government is providing incentives through the budget only, right? Then the final subsidy provision of rupees itna crore originally budgeted has helped FCI to repay rupees this much crore for outstanding NSSF loans, because FCI was also under loan. So government has provided the subsidy, subsidy amount, the overall subsidy amount to FS Food Corporation of India so that it can repay its loan and it can clear its balance sheet. All right. And also clear the fertilizer industry subsidy arrears. So you see that this much of budgeted amount was given, so it has helped. So what there is a difference, both the budget for 2022 and 2023 have seen an overshoot. Okay, so this overshoot is basically because of the Covid-19 pandemic and of course the Russian invasion of Ukraine, but there is a difference. See, there was a scheme that was launched in April 2020 with respect to food subsidy to provide free rice or wheat to about 800 million people because of the Covid-19 pandemic. And it had to be in operation from April 2020 to December 2022, and it has led to an expenditure of 3.9 trillion rupees. Okay, and if it is extended further till March 2023, the cost will shoot up to nearly 3.1 trillion rupees, and this is the second highest ever of overshoot. All right, remember this. So the difference, as I have already told you earlier, it was the Covid-19 pandemic. Now it is the Covid-19 pandemic plus Russian-Ukraine war. Now you will ask me, ma'am, Covid-19 is over, why the government is now still providing this and that? See, although it is seemingly over, but it is not yet over. That means one thing that we need to understand over here, that the economy wasn't and still is not back on track after it suffered a loss due to the Covid-19 induced, you can say, restrictions and lockdowns. So it needs some time to be back. And because of that, government has to provide subsidy. So because of these two things, we have to understand that we are seeing a lot of issues with food, fertilizer and oil. So the pandemic resulted in a record offtake of rice. Many people could not afford rice because they were not belonging to the APL, above poverty line category. So because they were from BPL, what happened? They had to have certain amount of food for them as their markets had closed down. So because of that, wheat and rice, it was recorded at a record high offtake through PDS. That was 92.88 million tons in 2020 and 21, and this much in 21-22. And this is because of many schemes plus the free grain Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Ann Yojana, because the government has to, of course, buy food from the farmer. They cannot buy it at a loss, right? The farmer will die. So what happens? The government comes into the picture providing subsidies so that both the sections can remain content. And it has been implemented. This scheme has been implemented for 8 months in 2020-21 and 11 months in 2021-22. And it might be extended for another 9 months in the current fiscal. You see, what it has already, not might be, it has been extended, but it might be extended. Now we have to understand that the government has to ensure that everybody is having a proper amount, a dignified amount in their hands through either food or through either money. So of course subsidies will be provided through that. The additional food subsidy spending for which authorization is now basically, it is being sought. It would mainly go to meet the cost of Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Ann Yojana in 2020-23. Let's see if it is extended or not. It is being considered. But of course, it is going to put a strain on the budget. Now in fertilizer and petroleum, as we know that fertilizer and petroleum, they specifically fertilizer, they are belonging to food industry, right? So of course, if we have to ensure that crops are grown properly in order to feed every person in this country, fertilizer is necessary. So for that we need subsidy as well. So for fertilizer and petroleum, the higher subsidy outgo has been due to surge in global prices from September to October 2021, and this is because of the Russian invasion on Ukraine. Okay, and the government wanted to cushion farmers. It does not want the shocks to be absorbed by poor farmers and poor consumers. So it cushioned farmers and consumers from the shock by providing subsidies. The maximum retail price of urea hasn't been raised, while not being allowed to go up much even for diammonium phosphate. Okay, retail prices of petrol and diesel were revised in April this year. However, they have the prices of petrol have been reduced from May 2022, and because of the cutting of excise duties, again this is having an issues with revenue of the government. The government is not getting as much revenue as it could. It has cut the excise duties. Now the rationale is that first we provide the subsidies for essential goods and then merit goods. Essential goods are very important for this existence, such as food grains, particularly rice and wheat. And merit goods are those goods for which if subsidies are provided, then it will generate a chain reaction for which positive externalities can take place, such as health and education related provision, midday meals and breakfast. So if we provide subsidies for those, other factors which are in the play will also get a positive reaction. If you've got good health, if I'm providing you subsidy for health, then you will be more productive, and these are the positive externalities. Then for midday meal, if I'm providing subsidies there, then children will come to school more, they'll get a better education. So it's like that. Moving ahead, now what can we expect for the next or the upcoming year? Some relief can be expected on all the 3 F's subsidies: food, fuel and fertilizer. In food, the government is unlikely to extend Pradhan Mantri 𝐏𝐲𝐬𝐬 𝐏𝐫𝐞𝐬𝐬 Yojana beyond December. Let's see what happens, because of course elections are going to be there for smaller and larger states, but it's still not clear. Moreover, public rice and wheat stocks at 55.31 MT on November metric ton on November 1 are the lowest for this date in 5 years, and might not permit that the government should extend the scheme beyond that. Low stocks will also reduce FCI's carrying cost of grain, because the government also has to, FCI also has to ensure that it is carrying the grains. So infrastructure plus proper structural changes in the warehouses, the employment has to be created to take care of those grains. So all that will also come down. Okay, moving ahead, now let's talk about what can we expect for the upcoming year in fuel category. International prices of gas and diesel have eased. Now the latter prices have translated into this much liter for petrol and rupees 55.11 liter for diesel, although it has translated by cutting everything else, like OMCs, oil marketing companies, are getting their own profits over here in the form of this much and this much per liter respectively. Although why we are justifying that OMCs are getting profit, it is okay that it is making profits, because earlier it had sustained losses because of the induction of lockdown. So because of that, it's okay, they can make profit for this time in order to recoup those losses. The food subsidy outgo for the coming fiscal is likely to be contained within rupees 200,000 crore, but it should not exceed rupees 150,000 crore for fertilizer, 25,000 crore for petroleum, but it could be upwards of rupees. The trend could be upwards of rupees 1,50,000 crore in subsidy saving. So subsidy saving is also going to be there. Let us see what is going to happen. Let's see the question, for which you will answer and get your names dictated. With reference to the Indian economy, demand pull inflation can be caused or increased by which of the following? Expansionary policies, fiscal stimulus, inflation indexing wages, higher purchasing power, or rising interest rate. These are the given options. Let me take the names of those who have answered the last question with respect to Cyclone Mandis correctly. Okay, many of you have answered it correctly. Let me take the names one by one. The correct answer was option B. Pallavi has answered it correctly. Pallavi Jangir and Nishant, also Suyog and Hope, Yash Y, Siba, Ranjit, Faisal, Priyanka, Tushita, Sagarika and Pallavi. Okay, you also said that you're experiencing the cyclone. That's good. I hope all is well and you are safe. Then T.S. Vimal Raj, Devika, Puneet, Riyansh, Rahul, Devraj, Praful, Anirudh, Supriya, Anuj, Srinivas, Sai, Aditya, Vinayak, Bejili, then Rehan, also Vani, Soumya, Anshika, Periyadurai, Simi, Pranjal, then Mahima, Chaya, and Kiran. Okay, thank you so much for answering that question. Answer this question correctly, then I will take your names in the next segment. Thank you so much.